Welcome again, everyone, to the Transform Your Birth podcast. Thank you for being with me today. I have lovely Laura and little Sonny. Oh, if you can see this on YouTube, that's wonderful because he is such a cute little fellow. He's beautiful. And he's got a t-shirt that says on it, "Ladies, I have arrived." Good old Sonny's already showing his charisma.
Absolutely.
And and it's great having Laura today because she's going to share two stories. And I love, every birth tends to lead to the next one. And vaginal birth after cesareans are an important, we need stories around that to build confidence in women if they do choose to go down that path. So let's let this story inspire you. Thank you, Laura, for coming on, darling.
Thanks, Tracy. Thank you for having me.
No
Yes,
worries.
I've had two very, very different births. So
Yeah,
my
let's kick off.
first,
Can I
yeah,
just ask you a couple of questions about your
sure.
preparation? Because I think it's important to realize that we can't control birth, but we can influence it, and preparation is an important thing. So, what did you do for baby number one?
Baby number one, I did a lot of personal prep, listening to podcasts, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But my husband and I did do your course, Transform Your Birth,
Hmm.
which was amazing. We went in feeling nervous and had a lot of apprehension around birth. I know I was a bit fearful having being my first birth.
Yeah.
But yeah, we left your course feeling so excited and so empowered um, for our birth. So we definitely prepared for our first birth. It just took some turns, which we'll go through,
Yeah.
that maybe we weren't ready for as first
Yeah.
time parents. Yeah.
Well, tell us how it unfolded, Laura.
So my first birth was in May of 2022.
Hmm.
And I went into spontaneous labor at 41 weeks on the dot. So literally my waters broke like in the movies, like, which was crazy. I woke up at midnight being like, oh, something's happening. Ran to the toilet and yeah, my waters had broken. So checked that it was all clear and everything. So I literally just put a pad on and went back to bed. Um, and kind of, I think it was getting a very gentle kind of contraction every 30 minutes. Um, so then slept on and off until things woke up, 7, and it was kind of every 15 minutes. And my husband and I just kind of had breakfast, walked around the house, started putting music on, doing the things and the tools that we had prepared for with this birth. It was slow though; it was slow moving.
Mm.
It was just us two. We decided that we just wanted it to be us this first time. I didn't know about doulas yet. We'll get to that, but yeah, it was just us two. So we just laid it at home for as long as we could.
Mm.
Things kind of ramped up when I was in the shower, around 2 p.m. I started feeling like a lot more intense contractions, being probably vertical in the shower, needing to like almost drop to my hands and knees. And that kind of not scared us, but was kind of like, oh, where are we at? So Brock was like, I think I should call a midwife. So he did. And, I was making a bit of noise in the background and she was like, yeah, why don't you come in? Sounds like things are, moving forward. So we packed up, went to the hospital, and as soon as we got there, they checked me and I was 3 centimeters. So straight away, I was a bit devastated because I was like, I thought I was further than that. Um, and they were all wearing masks. I couldn't see their faces. It was the end of
Yeah.
COVID.
COVID, yeah.
Yeah, it was the end of COVID. So there were still, I think, restrictions on visitors and that kind of thing. But yeah, mask on. They gave me Panadol, which did nothing. So we were just like, we were in the hospital and they were like, you can go home or you can stay. And we were like, I didn't want to go back in the car again. So I was just
Mm.
like, oh, all right, let's just stay here. I wanted a bath. So, we had to change rooms for that, which was fine. And we just labored there. It was just slow moving though. And we just stayed there until about 7:30 or 8, and Brock was really hungry, my husband, and
Mm.
I was like, I'm fine. I was listening to your meditations and I was like, I'm fine. Go get some food. And I just found the midwives were really hands off. We had quite junior midwives. They just kind of left us alone, probably because I was so early in
Mm.
labor.
Yeah.
Um, and so he went to get food. There was no one in the room. I was by myself and I completely lost my headspace.
Mm.
It just started to get really hard and I was alone and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I just lost it. Like, I just didn't have that focus anymore, felt out of control, like
Yeah.
scared probably.
That's a really important point. I want to just touch on, Laura.
Yeah,
Women in labor feel very vulnerable when they're on their own.
yeah,
And vulnerability is not the physiology that we need. And it's what,
no,
we really want to make sure that that woman feels, held and supported. And it's sad that
abs-
midwives these days often don't have either the inclination or the time to really help you to find comfort and to really be there for you. They're in and out rather than really holding space for that woman.
they
Mm,
really were. And I had actually witnessed a birth previously.
yeah,
I was a support person for one of my girlfriends. And she had such a hands-on midwife.
yeah,
So I was kind of like expecting that.
yeah,
And I mean, I didn't ask for it, but um, yeah, that was a real game changer. That I can see it as I reflect back. That was the turning point for my labor when
right.
I did lose that headspace. And Brock got back and he was like, oh my God, like I was a mess. I was crying, it was too hard.
Mm,
It was all a bit hard.
yeah,
And I was literally straight up. I was like, I need an epidural.
mm,
Like, I can't do this.
yeah,
I don't know what I'm at, but and they checked me and I was like 5 centimeters or something. Like the progress was quite slow.
mm,
Brock tried everything, bless him. He put the music on, he put the shower on, he filled the bath. He's like, we're good, let's do a meditation, let's get in the bath. Like he was so great, like trying all the toolkits, that we had worked with in your course. But I was just like, it was my headspace.
mm,
Um, and I clearly didn't feel safe. And it was just like, yeah, doubting my body. So I ended up getting the epidural, and it worked, but I obviously had to lay down in the bed. So I couldn't use movement or anything like that.
mm,
And then Aluna, my daughter, she didn't like, so my labor slowed down, which happens commonly with epidurals. And
yeah,
then they gave me the Syntocin, so the artificial
yeah.
serotonin, is it? Yeah, the
Oxytocin.
hormone, oxytocin,
Yeah, yeah.
um, to try and speed it back up. But Aluna didn't like that. Her heart rate started, flip flopping around a bit. So then there was extra monitoring, and then there was beeping, and then there was cause. Darling, it's okay. There was beeping, and there was cords, and then
Mm,
finally, there was extra monitoring, and then finally it was like, okay, you guys get some rest. And then there was a junior midwife. I was trying to sleep, and she was fiddling around with all the cords, like beep 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 beep, like right next to my head, um, as I'm trying to get some rest. And I'm just kind of like, what are you doing?
mm.
Like she's just there fiddling around, and then all of a sudden I feel some wetness on my neck. My epidural had come out.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I think probably she might have fiddled around and I don't know how it works anyway, but it had come
mm,
out. And so they had to, I was like, what's this? And then she's like, oh, I've got to get my senior midwife. And I was like, okay. And yeah, it turns out they had pulled it out or whatever. And so they had to get the anaesthetist to come back and do it again. And the anaesthetist was not happy about it, nor was I. But yeah, so then there was just all these things happening, so medicalized and breaking my space.
That's a lot to deal with, isn't it? And this is, I mean, in an ideal world, in ideal circumstances, with people who, are confident and skilled and, know how to support women in labour, we'd be very, very aware of not disturbing the mother in labour. Like any
Yeah,
animal, if you disturb any animal, you can literally change that labour. And of course, fundamentally, we are animals too. And
exactly.
that's a lot to deal with in terms of helping that woman surrender to the labor. Because when we pull women out of the zone, we call it the zone where they go primal and they don't think, and we overstimulate them with activity and noise and different people coming in and out, and anaesthetists who are happy or not happy, and all of that can really change that hormonal cocktail. You can go in from a relaxed space to a more stressed state, and that's a whole different cocktail. It's
Absolutely. And then as
unfortunate.
first time parents as well,
Yeah,
not knowing the journey that they're on.
yeah,
Why is it taking so long? Like, is
mm,
something wrong? Like,
yeah,
why are they monitoring me so much?
yeah.
Like all these questions are, popping around in my mind.
Exactly. And that's part of the challenge too, is the biggest mental challenge a woman has in labor is she doesn't know how long she's going to be in labor for. And but Mother Nature knows that as complex creatures, she goes, oh, let's put a bit of timelessness into the cocktail of endorphins. And
Yeah.
so ideally, we don't even care what time or how long we've been in labor for. We're just totally in the zone and we've gone into a state of timelessness. Um, and so when we do vaginal examinations and we get a number like, well, you're only 3 centimeters, which is what you got. By
Mm,
the way, 3 centimeters is well progressed in a first time mother because labor doesn't start at 0 and go to 10. It
yeah.
starts before 0. And the role of your contractions for a first time mother is to thin out, well, for any mother, is to thin out the cervix before it even opens the door. But when it's the first time your cervix has ever been effaced or thinned out, it can take a lot of contractions to do that work before you even open the door. So if you've been in labor for a few hours and you get a measurement like 3 centimeters, you think, oh, it's not working. When in
Mm,
actual fact, you're actually well progressed. And whatever it's taken you to do the first few centimeters has absolutely no bearing on what it's going to take you to do the rest. So, part of the mental challenge we have in labour is we like to know where the finish line is, but you actually don't. And so,
yeah.
even getting a measurement of 5 centimeters is very well progressed because I've seen first time mothers go from 5 to 10 in an hour. But it'll depend. It'll depend on whether you're active. It'll depend on whether the baby's pushing at the door, the position of the baby's head, how well it's presenting on the cervix to give it those lovely mechanical pressures to open. So it gets a bit tricky, doesn't it, with that mental stuff. Were you able to get
Absolutely.
back in the zone, Laura?
So the epidural allowed me to sleep, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And they did check me, I think, before I went to bed. And the
Mm-hmm.
junior midwife did it again. And she checked me and she was like, mm, just give me a minute. And I'm like,
Mm.
sorry.
Jeepers. Yeah,
And then she
that's
goes
not
out
a
of the
good look.
and then she goes out of the room and I look at Brock and I'm like, what just happened? And she's like, I need to go talk to my senior midwife. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
not a good thing to
no,
say to someone who's laboring, and
exactly. Mm.
anyway, so she came in and then she checked me again. And they're like, oh, I think, you're either 5 or 6. We're not really sure. And I was like, okay. Um, Also, again, not good news in terms of my
Mm.
headspace.
Yeah.
So, they're like, get some rest. Hopefully, your body will, dilate the rest. And then again, because I had witnessed this birth with my friend, she had an epidural and she dilated to 10 centimeters and it was all joy. We were laughing and playing cards, and that's in the back of my mind and being like, why is that not happening for me? Right.
Mm.
So I did get some rest, and so did Brock. And then that was probably like midnight to 6 a.m. And then we woke up, and the room was filled with doctors. And they were like, your baby's heart rate has dropped to the same as yours. We need to talk emergency C-section right now. And I was like, obviously, Brock and I were just like, what? So I turned to him, burst into tears, and just said, "Can you please give me a moment with my husband?"
Mm.
And I looked at him. They gave me that space, and I looked at him, and I was just like, I am so exhausted. I
Yeah.
just want her here. I just want her safe. At this point, it had been 32 hours.
Mm.
I was completely exhausted. I was like, why is this not happening for me? But again, like now it's kind of like her heart rate's dropped, and this is different. It's like I want her here safe. So
Mm.
we were like, okay, let's do it. So because of that, it was our decision. Like I
Yeah.
felt empowered in that moment, that I had been like, no, give me a moment with Brock, and it was us
Yeah.
making that decision.
I want to come in there, but I often say, certainly when I was a doula, I'd always try and create space for couples, particularly for the
Yeah.
woman, to readjust and recalibrate to a new plan.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming it's not a medical emergency, if you're in a situation where you're going from plan A to plan B, please don't hesitate to say, can you just give me a minute? Because when women have the time and the space to get their head around how this is changing, and obviously you tuned into, okay, the baby's more important, I've got to get on board with this. When women have that time and the space, they're able to adapt to the new plan. But if it's put on them too quickly, then it can be very overwhelming, and it
Yeah.
can really shift the emotional state of the mother. And we really need to protect that in labour, because the emotional state of the mother is paramount to the happiness and safety of the baby, as well as her own emotional well-being and her ability to get through this intense experience without feeling wounded on the other side. So I think that's really wise that you did that, Laura. And it sounded like what you were saying is it felt empowering to do that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Good on
I
you.
think it definitely changed from me being traumatized
Mm,
about the whole experience to
yeah,
actually being like, you know what, I did feel empowered, and
yeah,
it was our decision at the end of the day.
cool.
Um, and once we had decided, yes, we signed the paperwork and whatever, they
Mm,
whisk us down there. I had already had an epidural, so I was pretty much good to go.
yeah,
But they respected, from the moment we said yes, they respected all of our birth preferences. Even the wardsmen taking us down, they were like, "Are you having a girl or a boy? Do you have a name? You're
no,
about to meet your baby." And like
nice.
just that switch from a medicalized emergency
Yeah,
to being like excitement
the
and
human factor.
the human factor, someone looking me
Yeah,
in the eyes, being like, "You've done so well, but you're about to meet your baby,"
yeah.
and that was just really beautiful. And
Mm,
they respected our preferences of skin to skin straight away, and delayed cord clamping, and for Brock to cut the cord. And
lovely.
even though it was a C-section and it wasn't what I was hoping for our first
Mm,
birth, we still felt really respected,
beautiful.
in that moment. So, and we've got the most incredible photos. Brock's phone
Oh,
was one
wow.
on it was on 1% battery, classic. And he got these photos that it's like her coming out, and it's
Oh, lovely.
insane.
Oh,
Um,
that's beautiful.
and yeah, we got to do skin to skin on my cheek because I was,
Oh.
laying down, but
I
Brock
love
was
how you've described the cesarean. People can be very resistant to that mode of birth, and see it as a
yeah,
failure or see it as second rate. And it really isn't. Every birth is the welcoming of a baby, and we've got to see it with that lens, because if you have a resistance to a type of birth, you can change the experience of that. And really, what we want to
mm,
do is welcome these babies with love, not fear, and
definitely,
certainly not self judgment, because at the end of the day, you just have to walk your path and make the best decision with the knowledge that you have at the time. We can't preempt these things, we don't know where we're going in the mystery.
yeah.
So we've just got to be okay with whatever unfolds on the day. And I love how you've described cesareans, that your cesarean, it was beautiful. And asking your caregivers for what you want,
Yeah.
if they're not as attuned to the people that you had, who are obviously very on board to make this a nice experience as you welcome your little girl.
Yeah, it really was lovely. I obviously post birth, we actually had amazing postnatal midwives in the
Lovely.
recovery because
Yeah.
obviously we had a C-section, so we stayed in a bit longer. And as first-time parents, that also was just so life-changing. You know,
Mm.
they taught me how to breastfeed. You know,
Yeah.
they saw she had a tongue tie, and they quickly got a lactation consultant to come see us. You know,
Mm.
I think she um, kind of just gravitated a bit towards Brock and I, and then we had a bit of a relationship. So that
Nice.
continuity of care also was there postpartum, which I think really helped
Yeah. That's
transition us
lovely.
into first time parents.
Yeah. So when you were pregnant with baby number two, what
Yeah.
was going on for you about your plans for little Sonny?
Oh, so this is a bit of a journey. So from the beginning, my husband and I were both like, we want to have a home birth. So completely different from,
Yeah.
the first medicalized experience. And we were like, yeah, we want a private midwife, we want a home birth. We really want that for us. We want to bring a life into the world in our safe space at home.
Hmm.
Mostly because we didn't love the hospital experience in labor.
Yeah.
Postpartum, it was great, but in labor, we really didn't like the such hands off experience that we had.
Mm.
So I started searching. Actually, I wasn't even pregnant yet. We were planning pregnancy in a couple months, but I was already searching private midwives because I know how like popular they are, and there's not that many
Mm.
in Canberra.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was calling people, and they're like, "No, we're not doing home birth. No, we're not doing home birth." I found two. One who we had a call with, and we really liked her, so we ended up booking her in. Um, and then, we found out we were pregnant, and then we were like, yep, we'll go with you. And probably like 6 weeks in, I was 6 weeks pregnant, she cancelled on us,
Oh,
uh, which was super devastating because we were like, oh my God, this might not happen for us now. Like,
yeah.
so we ended up meeting with the other midwife who we just didn't vibe her
Mhm.
energy. You have to really
Mm.
feel connected to that person, and know you can work as a team. And I just looked at Brock afterwards and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't feel it.
Mm.
And that's so important.
Yeah,
You're
it
going to
is.
birth where you feel the most safe.
Yeah.
And I just had a vibe. I was like, no. Nah. So then, we didn't go ahead with that, and I could not find, there was no one else. So I was praying every day I was going to get into continuity, calling the hospital. Hi, it's me again. just
Good for
checking if I
you.
just checking if I got into continuity. Like from 7 weeks, I was calling
Nice.
them.
Squeaky wheel.
Literally, it didn't work. I didn't get
Oh
in.
no.
So that was my last uh like kind of strategy for the home birth route, because if I got into continuity and everything was, healthy with the pregnancy, then I could go into their home birth program. Didn't get in. I was like, okay, I was devastated. It just so happened my sister was pregnant at the same time. She's 8 weeks behind me, and she got into continuity. I was so happy for her, but I was
Yeah.
devastated.
Yeah. Oh
Once
wow.
again, I was like, why I'm trying so hard for this birth and it's not happening. So I ended up just letting go to the universe. I was like, okay, this isn't our path. That's fine. How can we get the support we need? And then I was actually having lunch with a work friend who is a doula on the side. She's not
Yeah.
practicing at the moment, but she is a doula. And she, in 1 hour chit chat about pregnancy, she convinced me 100% about a doula. And I ran
Yeah.
home that night. I was like, Brock, oh my God, we have to get a doula. And he was like, oh, I'm here for it. It sounds great. Let's G up a meeting. And so, yeah, we ended up going to one of their meet and greet, coffees, and met
Mm-hmm.
Kylie, and oh, we just
Oh,
loved her.
Kylie's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we came back from that coffee date, and we were just like, yeah, we want Kylie. We want her there. So then, yeah, we ended up getting a doula, and
Mm.
we kind of, that helped us as well with our education again. So
Yeah.
my daughter's 3, and so it had been a while since
Mm.
we were going through birth, and all of that. I obviously started listening to podcasts again. I really loved the Great Birth Rebellion
Yeah.
podcast. I actually learned a lot of stuff through that
Mm.
podcast, um, which I'll touch on in for the labour as well. Um, but then we had a couple prenatal sessions with Kylie, and then she was on call for the birth, and then 2 postpartum sessions as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Um,
amazing.
continuity of a known midwife tends to be the most popular model of care because you have someone who follows you all the way through. And home birth is that, it's like gold standard of that because
Yeah,
you get a lot of care through having your own midwife. But
yeah,
if you aren't able to access those programs or financially an independent midwife, then a doula is a wonderful option to give you that continuity and that relationship. Now, doulas are a professional childbirth support person. They tend to specialize in pre-labor, during labor, postnatal, and they all have different packages of what they offer because of their skill set. But it's a wonderful thing to explore if you are in a program where you don't know who's going to be with you on the day. Now, they don't give medical advice and they shouldn't be influencing your decision making other than helping you to understand what the landscape is. So it's important.
yeah.
And it is a vibe thing. You're so right, Laura. So, how did things unfold?
So we had our sessions with Kylie, which was amazing. We did a lot of birth planning and
Yeah.
birth prep.
Yeah.
I this time around we wanted mum there as well, so we went from just us two to having Kylie, my mum, my sister was going to be there as well, but she ended up looking after a Luna for us.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so we went from not much support to amazing support, which is
Yeah.
one of the big things that we really wanted. That was
Mm,
different from our first, not only for me but also for Brock.
yeah.
I think it's so important. The husband has such a role to play, and he's your person. He's there, amping you up, telling you what you need to hear in those moments. But he also needs support.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was really important that Brock also had a good relationship with Kylie and felt safe in that space as well. That was really
Mm,
important for me.
very cool.
So yes, the pregnancy was healthy, normal. I didn't have gestational diabetes this time.
Nice.
The first time I was literally on the cusp. My GP was like, "You don't have it," and they changed the scoring whatever system. So I would have been negative the first time round, but
Yeah.
I was negative this time too. So that was another stressor that I didn't have, which was really nice. So yeah, pregnancy was smooth sailing. Um, I started about 8 weeks before Sunny was born, or 6 weeks before Sunny was born. We had we unexpectedly lost my mother-in-law.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I'm probably going to get emotional about this, but
Mm,
yeah, it was really, really hard.
yeah.
We were preparing to welcome a new little life, and we lost a life that was so important to us.
Mm,
So that really kind of halted our birth prep for a little bit. We really had to grieve um, and let ourselves go through that journey of grief.
mm,
Um, Obviously, I was so conscious of the little one inside me and looked after myself and tried to, just breathe. And
mm,
I had never experienced such loss before, and grief. So it was really a new journey for me to navigate and to support Brock as well, and to Luna. She was 3 and
yeah.
she lost her grandmother really suddenly. Um, so that was just that absolutely through us. So it did take, I was probably 34 weeks when that happened. And it took us about a month to just focus on healing as a family and,
Mm,
honoring her and kind of just moving through that grief. before we were able to see that little light at the end of the tunnel of excitement about welcoming, our little
Mm.
beautiful Sonny. And that's kind of why we named him Sonny as well. He is the light at the end of that dark tunnel, and he gave us, that joy again.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was a crazy time. So Kylie again helped us work through that. Some
Yeah.
roles had changed. Um, Aluna would have gone with Tina while I was in labour, but obviously we had to change some things. So my sister stepped in, and we're so lucky we've got so much support. So
Mm.
um, yeah, we, after, and grief is an ongoing thing. It's just living with it. It doesn't
Yeah.
go away. So once we started to see that little bit of light, we were able to kind of shift into welcoming, the birth and that prep, because when it all happened, I was not ready. I was like,
Mm.
I can't even think about it right now. So then we worked with Kylie, and she was such a supportive person for both of us as well. We were so emotional, and just letting the tears come when they needed to was
Mm.
really important. Um, but then, I started to do little things. Postpartum is such an important phase as well, the fourth trimester. And I find I've experienced, and I did some postnatal yoga classes and all this stuff. Nobody thinks about the postpartum period, or
Yeah.
they don't think too much about it, but it is full on. So,
Mm.
I really wanted to make lots of meals. And, as a second time mum, I knew what was really helpful the first time. So I did a bit of prep with that, making meals, and then slowing down and going inward, and, really starting to talk to my baby and just be like, we've got this, because my dream was having a VBAC.
Mm.
Um, it was a home birth VBAC, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? The VBAC is the goal,
Yeah.
whether it happens at home, whether it happens in a hospital. That's still what I really wanted to achieve.
Mm.
So, we were really clear about that in our birth planning. What happens in this scenario, these different scenarios. What is mum doing? What's Brock doing? What's Kylie doing? Like having really like defined roles and what I want. So everyone was crystal clear on what I wanted and how they were going to advocate for me, which was amazing. And so at 40 weeks on the dot, that week I had been crampy. I was really getting sore and, lower back pain and all this kind of stuff. And I decided that I would take some homeopathic remedies. I'm also studying to be a naturopath, and I love homeopathy.
Yeah.
And so, I was ready. I was ready. So I was like, yep, let's get some homeopathic remedies. I went to the Hierophant in Griffith, and spoke to them there and got, the remedies. And then I took them on the Friday morning. So I started at 7 and alternated on, blue, cohosh, and whatever the other one is, coliphylum.
Mm.
Um, and so you did that every 2 hours and finished at, what was it, 5 p.m., I think. 4 hours later, I went into labor. So with
Wow.
homeopathic remedies, it's only going to work if your body and your baby's ready.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, like acupuncture is the same thing.
exactly.
It can just promote ripeness, but it'll only
It can
work if
just
you're
push you a
ready.
little bit in the right
Mm.
direction, but it's only going to work if mum and bub are ready.
Yeah.
I felt ready. So that Friday, when I was taking those remedies, I was feeling really crampy and achy. I still got on with things. I've got a 3-year-old. So, we went to the park and walked around and did some cooking and, whatever.
Mm.
And my dad came over, and, he thought I seemed a little bit irritable. I was like, okay. Anyway, maybe I was, because
Mm.
I think I was in early labour.
Yeah.
So 9 p.m. rolls around. Aluna's gone to bed. Brock and I are watching some telly. I just was walking around a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, this is different. This is different. These crap." Like I was like, "I think I'm in labour, Brock." And he was like, "Okay, no worries, we're cool," because he was like, the first time was 32 hours, right? So we were like,
Is it?
we're in for a ride here. And 15 minutes later, my waters break
Oh, wow.
in the kitchen. Literally, I was like, oh, okay, no, this is, yep, okay. And then from the point my waters broke, I was in active labor. So I'm talking a contraction every 2 minutes lasting for a minute. And I was timing, I literally got out, down a piece of paper and I was like, Brock, we need to be timing these because they are coming hot and fast
Mm,
and so intense, like to the point I couldn't talk in these contractions. And I was just like, it's just staying every 2 minutes. I was like,
mm.
this is wild. I'm like, call Kylie, call my mum, call bloody everyone. And, you know, Brock had called them already and he was like, we're in labor. It's all good. I'll keep you posted. I'm like, you call them back right now. Something is happening. We're on here. But yeah, he called them back and he's like,
And
actually,
that's what
guys,
can happen when waters break. And it's interesting too, you had a sense you're in early labor. See,
yeah,
waters typically break at the towards the end when the pressure's at its greatest. So the baby
mm,
was probably putting a lot of pressure on, and that like the waters act as a bit of a buffer between the baby and the cervix. But when that's gone, the baby comes down very strongly on the cervix, and you can go into very strong labor.
it
Yeah,
was
so
wild. But also comparing to that first birth, my waters
yeah,
broke straight away too.
yeah,
But
but
it was
it
every half
was
an hour, and
that's
then
right. Yeah,
it was such chalk and cheese
yeah, so
um,
interesting.
from 1 to 2, and so you know, heat was my godsend. I just wanted
Hmm.
a steaming hot heat
Right.
pack down, you know, on my uterus kind of area, quite low,
So on your
and
belly, yeah.
yeah, under the belly, and then
Hmm.
bent over. So I was
Right.
just kind of like this on a chair, on a table, on anything I could find, just being bent over like that. And
Hmm.
that's pretty much how I labored. A lot of movement. So a lot of moving of the hips, figure eights, that kind of thing. And I really wanted to use more movement this time round.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of things that I really wanted to do. I really wanted to use movement. I really wanted to um, use heat. I had all the tools, you know, I had the tens and all these things. They put the tens on me and I was like, get it off.
It's funny, isn't it? You just don't know what's going to work until the day.
I did not love it at all. I
Mm.
was like, that is awful, get it off. And then poor Brock was chewing gum. I got a whiff of it and I was like, get that out of here, get that out.
The smells. If you don't like the smell, you would have thought
Normally,
gum was fine.
I know, but literally I got a whiff of it and I was like, nah, get that out. I knew what I didn't want. Let's be fair.
I always laugh at women in labor. They're so clear.
Oh,
It's like, no,
so
stop.
clear. And but everyone knew it's like she's got it. She's running the show. We do what
Yes.
she wants. It's her
Yeah.
moment. So everyone
Oh, how
arrived and
lovely.
that was awesome. Yeah, we were timing. We like two for 2 hours. I
Yeah.
was having those same contractions every 2 minutes, lasting for a minute. Around 11 p.m., things started to get really intense. Like I starting to kind of get really agitated. Still bent over because that was working and using heat, but I started to say things like, "I can't do this. This
Transition.
is yeah." Like it was starting to get. It was just changing. And Kylie, between a contraction, you know, she was like, "Laura, do you think you're going to be able to let go at home?" And I said, "No." And she was like, "All right, we need to go to the hospital then. We
Mm,
need to go." And I
mm,
was like, "You know what? Yep, let's do it." In my mind, I was just like, "It's happening right now. We need to go right now, or else it's not going to happen."
mm.
Just because it was starting to get so painful.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that I really wanted to do this time was use my voice. So
Mm.
in my yoga, prenatal yoga, um, that I did with offspring
Yeah.
yoga,
Uh-huh.
and it was like the buzzy bee. So, you know, using that kind of stuff to really distract your mind, using sound
Mm.
and your voice down in your voice box as well. And so I used that from the moment my contraction started as well. I was vocal, and I started to get real primal.
How do you think that helped you, Laura? Tell me more about that.
I think it helped me because I was able to turn inward. I was able to really focus on just that sound and that vibration throughout my body. So I was able to just be so focused
Yeah.
in those contractions, just turn inward, just focus on my voice and just, I can do anything for a minute and just hum it out. And the midwife was, one of the doulas was like, I helped a mum and she hummed the baby out. And I was like, I'm just humming this baby out.
I'll
I'm just
have
going
one
to
of
hum.
those.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
was like,
cool.
yep, perfect. Amazing. Let's do that.
Mm.
So, yep, Brock got everything ready. Everyone got ready. I said bye to Aluna. She had woken up. She's like, why is mummy making all those noises? I'm like, mummy's having a baby. She was like, awesome. She went back to bed with my sister and we went to the hospital. Hospital ride was rough as I was probably like transitioning.
Mm.
I was just hanging on to that bloody handle in the car. Like, mum was great. She was behind me, massaging my shoulders, and Brock was able to just focus on driving, which is great because
Yeah.
obviously that's important. But for him not to be worrying about me,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
mum, again, it was just all about that
Oh,
support.
you had great support, didn't you? Yeah.
And
Mm.
honestly, game changer, game changer.
Mm.
Got to the
Big lesson
hospital.
there.
Oh, right before I left home, I said, Kylie, grab my eye mask.
Mhm.
And this is what I learned from the Great Birth Rebellion podcast is wearing an eye mask in labor.
Yeah.
And I wore it from when I left my house to when Sunny was put on my chest. And
Oh,
it was the best thing that I did because I did not get distracted. I was so focused. All I had to worry about was my contractions. I could turn inward. I didn't see anyone's face. I didn't get the lights didn't affect me. Like I was just so present and so like just in that, like you said, that timelessness.
yeah.
That's exactly where I was this time. And that was so different from my first.
Yeah.
So literally mum wheeled me up in the wheelchair. I was just laboring, couldn't see anything. They got me to the room. Brock whipped out my birth plan. The midwives were frothing for it. They loved it. They were like, yep, this is brilliant. So everyone knew what I wanted. They didn't even check me when I got there because
Nice.
she was like, girl, you're good to go.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you,
Yeah.
you were transitioning when you got here. And she
Mm.
was like, just listen to your body. If you get an urge to push, you push. And I was like, wow. So what a different experience arriving at the hospital, and Kylie was great. She was like, why don't you go try and go to the toilet? And I couldn't go, but I got an urge to push when I got onto the toilet. And the midwife's like, don't have your baby on the toilet. She's like, anywhere else, anywhere else. I'm like, yep, okay. So we moved me again. Another thing I wanted to do is I wanted to lunge when I was pushing. And so again, that bent over position over things was just my optimal position. So they lowered the bed. I was over the end of the bed lunging, and Brock was like right up near my face because I was blindfolded. I had my eye mask on, and he was just right there, just with me, which I just needed like in that last phase because that's when you doubt yourself. That's when you're like, I can't do it. And Brock was right there. He's like, you can do it. This is what we want. You're so close. And everyone in the room was just like, you're doing it. You
Oh,
are
I got
doing it.
goosebumps.
I know. It was like I had a squad who were
Oh.
just, it was amazing. And so,
Mm.
I started pushing and um, got the urge to push as well, which I had never experienced before.
Mhm.
Um, they coached me really well. Obviously, I was still blindfolded as well. I just listened to my body. And then between every contraction, I just, not collapsed, but just
Mm.
completely let go.
Rested. Yeah.
Rested. Kylie was there shaking my arm, loose jaw, loose lips, all this stuff. And I just collapsed and regained that energy to go again.
Mm.
They coached me really. they coached me really well. Obviously, I was listening to my body, but then they were also trying to protect my perineum. So we had, warm compress, and they were just like, apparently this might be oversharing, but I have a short perineum.
Uh-huh.
And so they were really trying not to let me tear. So,
Mm.
they were coaching me, and he was crowning, and they were like, go down and touch him. And I did, and that was amazing. And um, definitely nice burning ring of fire there as he was crowning. But yeah, just were coaching me, and it ended up just to get his head out. They were kind of starting to change what I was doing. They were like, how about you just blow out the birthday candles, blow out the birthday candles. So it turned out it stopped from me like pushing really hard, because I
Yeah.
was, to
Yeah.
being like trying different strategies just to protect the perineum.
Mm.
So blow the candles out, like that kind of stuff, and then cough, and these kind of things. Um, but I really had, what was really amazing it was such a physiological birth.
Yeah.
I got that fetal ejection reflex. It was like I pushed, and then something greater from inside of me pushed again. And it
Mm.
was so amazing, like just for your body to take control and just give you that energy that I didn't have, or I felt like I didn't have, was so amazing. And then his head came out, and um, obviously we paused again, and I've got some crazy photos that my mum took.
Wow.
um, and then his shoulders got a little bit stuck.
Mhm.
He just wasn't moving, and the midwife was like, I'm sorry, darling, I know you don't want to be on your back pushing, but we need to get you in a different position just to get his shoulders out. And I was like, yep, no worries. Head sticking out, I somehow just stood up and got onto the bed and rolled over onto my back. And Brock was just like, oh my God, he was like, how did that even like physically work? He, he was describing it like, the kebab shop with the meat on the
Yeah.
stick. He's like, how did his little head not just pop off because it was just sticking out? It would have been a wild thing to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I literally just got onto my back. The midwives helped me, and then they were like, just do 2 little coughs, and I was just like, and then out onto my chest, and
Oh.
I'm desperately trying to get my eye mask off, which I had been wearing the whole time, and was just like in shock. Brock and I were just elated, oh my God, he's here. We did it. And everyone's like, you did it. And I'm just like, what? I was really in shock, so much shock. And we also didn't know the sex. So I kind of thought it was a girl. I don't know why. I was sicker actually
Mm.
in the
Mm.
first trimester than I was with Aluna. I loved sweets. I drank milk from the bottle, which is so gross. And Brock was like, it's a boy. As soon as he saw me do that, he's like, it's a boy. Anyway, so we didn't know the sex. And someone said, I think it was my mum, she's like, is it a boy or a girl? And I hadn't even looked because I was in so much
Yeah.
shock. And I just lifted him up, and I was like, it's a boy. And genuinely, it was the most out of body experience. Like,
Wow.
and Kylie actually got it on video. And I'm like, that doesn't even sound like me. Like, it was out of body. I was still on another plane
Yeah.
from that birth, from that physiological birth, and just like I couldn't. I was just so shocked that it was a boy. Um, so happy, so thrilled, and yeah, just so shocked. Like it was amazing. And so he was here. He was safe. He was perfect. I did it. I was, and the whole room were just like, you are a superwoman. Like that
Oh,
was my dream VBAC. The
yeah.
midwife,
Oh.
the 2 midwives we had a senior midwife who had had a C-section her first birth, and she was like, I want that for me. That VBAC
Mm.
that you just did, I want that. That was
Mm.
amazing. And then the student midwife, she had one birth left to graduate, and it was mine. And
Oh.
so she's like, I'm going to remember this birth for the rest of my life. Like, that was just the most amazing VBAC.
You had an
Yeah, so
audience, darling.
oh, it was like I
Cheerleaders.
had a cheer team, and every like, obviously Brock was incredible, and mum was really amazing. Like
Mm,
she hadn't experienced a birth before. Obviously, she had her own,
mm,
but it is such a different experience for a
yeah.
mum to see her daughter birth, and she just, she was so emotional, and she's like, "You are a superwoman," which was so beautiful. But then she was like, "I just have so much more respect for myself
Mm,
from witnessing that birth," which is pretty amazing. Like
mm,
for someone to, actually reflect on their birth and be like, wow, I have so much respect for myself on what I went through, because her labors were really long
yeah.
as well. But yeah, we were just so thrilled. So from start to finish, 4 hours
Wow.
compared to
Goodness me.
32.
Yeah. That's
And
that's the truth of it. It can just every birth is just so different. Can I ask
yeah,
a quick question?
yeah,
Was there pressure to monitor, to do continuous monitoring?
no.
Okay.
So they did put a cannula in,
Mm-hmm.
which I said, okay.
Yeah.
Um, that is the only thing. Oh, no, sorry. They did put a monitor on my belly,
Yeah.
the pink one.
Right.
But I think because it was so progressed, I think it didn't really matter. I got
Mm,
the urge to push not long after being there.
right.
They just kept it on.
Mm,
But again, I was blindfolded. I had my mask on. So everyone was kind of talking to me, or talking to my team who knew what
yeah.
I wanted.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really amazing. And there was no like I didn't even need to get checked,
Mm,
which is completely different from my first birth.
yeah. And did you avoid tearing?
No, I didn't. I had a second-degree tear,
Yeah.
um, just shallow, like
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
wasn't deep. So the work that they did do with me probably helped.
Yeah.
But at that point, I didn't care.
No, that's
I
always a good point to make because people can get their heads in a spin about the idea of tearing. And
Yeah,
typically at the time, it's the last thing you think of. But
it
one of
is.
the things I loved about your birth is you had very hands-on midwifery skills around coaching you not to push too hard, too fast. The whole, when we see it on TV, push, push, all that shit puts women's
No.
bodies under enormous pressure. And that's where we get, our recovery can be a lot longer with that
Yeah,
sort of approach. But that little just careful, let's just open and yeah, it's
it
it's
was so
wonderful.
cool. It was
Mm,
so cool, and I got that hands-on experience I wanted from the midwives.
yeah,
Again, chalk and cheese from my first birth when they were
yeah.
in and out the door, masks on. These women were on my team. Like I didn't
Mm,
even know them, but they were like, "Yes, you've got this. You are birthing your baby. This is happening. Like you are,
beautiful.
yeah." So just the most incredible experience.
Yeah. So what
Just
did you learn about yourself, Laura?
that I'm powerful, that I
Yeah,
can do anything.
yeah.
That, and just such pride for myself,
Mm,
for having a goal and doing the work
yeah.
to actually get there. You can't go in being like, I'm just going to wing it,
Yeah.
because that leaves you feeling out of control. Not not I guess, yeah, not in control.
Yeah.
Um, but we did the work. We brought our care team in. We talked about different avenues. Yeah,
Mm,
we talked about maybe I'd have to have another C-section. That
yeah.
is that is an avenue that could have happened.
Mm,
And we knew what we wanted to do in that scenario. So
yeah. You
it
need to
was
be prepared for birth under all circumstances and not get too attached to things being a certain way. Yeah.
exactly, and we knew that from the first time, you know.
Mm,
But we were so ready. We were so excited. We were really informed, but in a different way. Like
mm,
we were informed the first time.
yeah.
The difference was we just didn't have the support when Brock needed it, or
Yeah.
when I needed it and Brock wasn't there. We
Mm,
still educated ourselves as much as we could. So I just think doulas are the best.
Yes.
I think,
Yay,
but I
doers.
yay doulas, and I think
Important role.
the stats are amazing too. Like
Mm.
I don't know, I can't say them off the top of my head, but having
Oh,
a doula, significantly decreases the chance of
intervention.
intervention
That's
and
right.
C-sections and any kind of intervention,
Yeah.
which was which is incredible. And I've had it's interesting as well. Just quickly in my journey in this pregnancy, I had quite a bit of pushback from the medical system being a C-section
Mm.
mama the first time. I had to see more OBs this time. So I just went public,
Yeah.
um, but I had to see more OBs, and I was being pushed to book an induction at 39 weeks, and I was like, no,
Hang on, an induction for a VBAC. That
yeah,
doesn't sound too smart.
they were
Bec-
pushing me. They were pushing me to have an induction, and of course, with an induction, you have to stay in the hospital. So my goal, my plan of labouring at home
Mm.
would have been off the cards. But also, I was 39 weeks, and I literally pushed back, and I said, no. I went into spontaneous labour with my first pregnancy at 41 weeks. I am not even talking about induction until 41 plus 5. And she was like, oh. Then she's like, well, why don't we do a stretch and sweep this week? And
Pressure.
I was like, no. And she sassed me. She was like, why? And I said, because stretch and sweep is a form of um, oh my God, intervention
Yeah.
is a form of intervention. And I do not want any intervention. I know my body can go into labor on its own. It's done it before. And she was just like, why are you pushing? Why are you refusing a stretch and sweep? And I'm like, I'm not. I just don't want it now. Like, and it's almost like she made me feel like a naughty child.
Mm. You
And
were. It's good to be a naughty child.
oh, and boy,
You
did I
need
feel
to be a naughty
empowered.
child.
But I
Mm.
couldn't help thinking as I was walking to the car, feeling, they also, a bit later down, I think it was at 40 weeks when they were really pushing induction, or 41, no, 40. She started putting stillbirth stats on me. She's like, your risk of stillbirth doubles from weeks 40 to 41. And I was like, how dare you put that on me?
Mm.
Because I know that it's like 0.2 to 0.2 to 0.4% or something of
Mm.
births.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm like, how dare you put that kind of fear in a woman who is so close to going into labor and
Mm.
birthing her baby? In
Mm.
what world would you put that kind of fear onto someone?
Yeah.
And that really left me feeling quite disappointed with the hospital system. Luckily, I was a second time mum, and I knew I could push back, and I had
Yeah.
Kylie, and I debriefed a lot with her
Yeah.
after that. But imagine a first time mum
Mm.
who doesn't know anything else and doesn't have the support and are pushed for an induction or,
Yeah.
way earlier than their body's ready.
And
I
that's
just
why
think it's outrageous.
we've got a 50% induction rate in first time mothers, which is not
That's
leading to better
crazy.
outcomes. It's not preventing stillborn, it's actually creating a whole lot of other problems. And look, I think it's important people understand that in their training, particularly obstetricians, they're taught to manage birth. They're not taught to trust it.
Mm,
And we throw around these figures and we use fear as a method to bring in compliance. And that's not helpful. In fact, it can create complexity through just scaring the mother, like that just shifts her physiology.
yeah,
So it's a very, very poor and limited approach when it comes to getting women ready to go into labour. We want to have that women feeling safe, loved, and supported so she can learn to work with her labour, not against it. And
exactly.
it's great that you've brought that up. And I think people listening need to appreciate that whilst they're doing the best that they can with what they know and how they've been trained, you have to appreciate that there's a fundamental foundation to their training that is about managing, making things happen, forcing it, and birth most of the time just needs trust and patience. But what they're not, and to be fair, they're not given the luxury to trust and be patient either, because if things go wrong, they get their backsides hauled up into a court of law and they have to justify not doing things. It's much easier to say, well, I did this and I did that and I'm not medically negligent, than it is to
Yeah.
say, well, I just couldn't see any contraindications. I just trusted the process. That could be perceived as being negligent. So this is
And
part
I
of the
get that. I
forces.
get I get that they're, tied to the hospital policies and they are
Yeah.
trying to
But
do the
it's
best they
always,
can, but
it's your
yeah,
choice. That's what people need to realize. And it's important to exercise that choice and to be
yeah,
okay to push back if there's no real reasons why. I mean, what was the pressure? And here's the thing, like even the idea with a woman who's had a cesarean, induction puts that uterus under, particularly if it's the syntocin, and
yeah,
they
yeah.
use
They don't
syntocin.
recommend
And
that, do they?
no, that's right.
Yeah,
It can put the uterus under a lot of pressure and
yeah,
stress unnecessarily. When you just trust the woman's hormones, there's a real intelligence to the cocktail of hormones in the way that it constructs labor sensations and the opening of that doorway.
yeah.
And so inductions can be helpful under certain circumstances, but they certainly shouldn't be 50%. And
Oh, for
I've
sure.
heard obstetricians say this at a College of Midwives webinar I attended, and there was two very highly qualified and skilled obstetricians, and they were talking about the overuse of induction, and they said when your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and that is what induction is. It's one of those things that we just use to fix problems
Yeah,
without appreciating that inductions them very selves have risks and significant can be have significant risks if brought in too early when the body's not ready and we're really having to
exactly.
force the issue. Yeah.
Of course, the body's going to react,
Yeah. And the
when
flow
it's,
and effect of that to mothering.
yeah,
Laura, your story has been such an inspiration today. And for those listening, particularly if you're planning a VBAC, it's lovely to hear stories of women who are confident enough to first do the work. I loved the way you did that. The planning and the preparation, you got the right support that you needed,
yeah,
and you were able to truly surrender to your labor with some incredible tools and your little eye mask that you wore through all of that, shutting down senses and shutting down stimulation, which can keep that mother in the primal part of her brain and not working against the labor. You were able to really surrender to it this time. Is
yeah.
there one little message you want to leave us with today, Laura?
That you're powerful, you can do it. If I can get a VBAC, you can too. Do
Uh,
the work and educate. And
yeah,
yeah, women are amazing.
absolutely. Women are amazing. And think about getting a doula. Great
Yes,
girl.
and get a doula. Oh my God, get a doula.
Yeah.
You won't
Yeah.
regret it. You won't regret it.
Beautiful. Thank you,
Thank,
everybody, for listening. I really appreciate you supporting this podcast. Share it around with people who you know. We try to use it not only to tell inspiring stories, but also to help you to understand what you can do to move the needle in birth. Thanks again for listening. Bye.